Welcome back to Get Down to Business, the show about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. I'm thrilled to have a returning guest, and that's Ted Clark, a businessman, entrepreneur, and investor with over 40 years of experience as a senior executive in both public and private equity-owned specialty chemicals companies. He started as a shipping clerk, and he rose through the ranks to become president and CEO of Products Research and Chemical Corporation, PRC, global leader in aircraft and construction sealants and coatings. His new book, Buy and Build CEO, Leveraging Private Equity to Build a Winning Global Business, certainly chronicles Clark's 14-year adventure in the world of high-stakes, high-rewards business. You can learn more at tedclarkauthor.com. Ted, welcome back to Get Down to Business.
Great to be back with you, Shalom.
Absolutely. We're going to jump right in because, again, fed you on the program in the past. And, private equity is something that, we've talked about before, but you are a veteran business executive. Why private equity? Isn't there another way to finance a new business?
Yeah, of course. There's, you typically think about entrepreneurs, starting, with a little savings or with, borrowing money from their family or maybe with a big idea, getting a venture capitalist to back them. What I write about is kind of a different way for an entrepreneur, maybe a different kind of entrepreneur. In my case, somebody who was running a fairly large company, was running a, $250 million company, got taken over by another company. I had an idea that I wanted to build out, but I needed a platform company to be able to execute my strategy. And private equity was great because, I wanted to buy a company that already had cash flow, and then use that cash flow to help, buy additional companies. And I needed a partner. That's exactly what private equity does. They invest in companies with, reliable cash flows, and then work with the leaders of those companies on growth strategies to create value for their investors.
Definitely, absolutely. That makes perfect sense. So again, we started talking a little bit about private equity. Let's dig in a little bit deeper beyond providing that equity and structuring the balance sheet, sort of along the lines of some things they've already started talking about. What else do private equity partners bring to the business? Specifically, I'm really curious about some of that experience that you could capitalize on.
Yeah, well, of course, this is the traditional stuff, right? So, they know how to get the thing, get a business financed and get, as you said, get the balance sheet in place and, get the right level of debt on the company to grow it. But beyond that, because we were doing a buy and build strategy, they really became my partners in M&A, right? So we were, part of our strategy was to, go out and source deals ourselves, right? And try to do proprietary deals. And, I traveled with the private equity partner. We visited, many companies. And so we really, what I call it is a shared vision. We kind of created a shared vision, and then we used the capability and expertise of the private equity company, along with the expertise that I had in the adhesive sealants and coatings business, to really kind of drive out a value creating strategy. And so it was really a partnership, if you want to think about it that way.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So buy and build. So why is that sort of buy and build a good strategy to develop specifically on the global business side of things?
Yeah. So, buy and build is it's a great strategy if you have a clear idea of what kind of company you want to build, right? So, part of it is finding an executive like myself in this case who understands the market and the customers and the research and development, all those other things, to come up with a strategy. And my strategy is fairly simple. There was 7 or 8 markets I thought were very attractive, and there were about 8 or 9 technologies and 2 or 3 kind of service offerings that I thought if I could put that together in a package, I could grow this company globally, right? So I could support big companies like Boeing and GM, Chrysler, BMW, Mercedes, et cetera. So the global part was really necessary to service the kind of customers I thought were important for us to have in our portfolio. And then we just started with a little regional company that brought some of that to us. And then, over a period of 14 years, we did 18 additional acquisitions. we sort of filled in that matrix and ended up with, going from a $35 million business and, $5 million in cash flow to one that was $650 million and $140 million in cash flow at the end of 14 years with operations in the United States, Europe, and in China.
Absolutely. Really, really interesting to get him chatting with the one, the only Ted Clark, businessman, entrepreneur, investor with over 40 years of experience. Got quite an impressive story, which I know we've talked about on a previous segment on Get Down to Business and talking about sort of that journey of starting as a shipping clerk and making your way all the way to become president and CEO of PRC, Products Research and Chemical Corporation. So sort of that journey, not typical, but congratulations and thank you very, very much for sharing your experiences with us and frankly being very candid about some of those experiences. But I want to talk a little bit more about sort of the side of working for private equity. Wouldn't working for private equity sort of be a little bit more risky than working for a public company? Can you describe a little bit about some of the differences and nuances between the two?
Well, I've worked in both, and they both, they both have, their features, right? I think the difference with private equity is you really have to have a clear idea of where you're going, and you have to demonstrate that you're getting there, right? So it's not like you have to get a result every quarter, but you really have to be driving towards accomplishing a strategy and a goal that's going to create, more value than the sum of its parts. And what I like to talk about, right? So, let's say you buy 5 companies and they're worth, $100 million. Well, when you put them together, they need to be worth, $150, $200 million, right? So you have to have that value creation strategy, and you have to be able to execute. So I think it's I guess probably in a way it's a tougher business working in private equity, but it's also very creative, right? You're making your own decisions with a very small board, a few people from the private equity company and myself really deciding what we needed to do and how to build a business. So there's kind of a speed improvement, execution improvement, et cetera. And not that, I love working in private companies too, public companies as well. Just sort of a different focus in public companies than in private equity backed companies.
Okay, excellent. And we're quickly getting to the end of our time over here. But I know in your book you talk about a purist manager. So I'm curious, what is it that you mean by that, and why is this important to buy and build growth strategies? I think that's important as we come to a close in our conversation.
Yeah, it's important because that's really what private equity companies are looking for, right? So they're very good at evaluating deals, doing due diligence, understanding broad macro trends and areas that they want to invest. But they're really looking for kind of a purist manager in the sector that they're after that really knows the nuances of the business, right? Someone who's been successful there before, has a track record, understands what it takes to grow a company, but equally understands what kind of risk you need to mitigate, right? So you don't, they're really looking for somebody who has a track record in an industry that knows how to create value, which is, it's a little bit hard to find, but those are the perfect kind of executives to work with private equity.
Excellent. Again, I'm chatting with the author of a new book, Buy and Build CEO, Leveraging Private Equity to Build a Winning Global Business. It surely is the playbook around private equity from somebody who has spent quite a bit of time in both public and private equity-owned specialty chemical companies. Lots of experience. And this book is sort of industry agnostic. I think that you can learn something, even if you're not an entrepreneur, something really, really fascinating read. It came out September 13th, 2022, and it's called Buy and Build CEO, Leveraging Private Equity to Build a Winning Global Business. So I always love to talk about homework for our listeners. And I think the best homework that we could give people is that they should get in touch with you, Ted. How can they do that?
Yeah, they can just look me up on www.tedclarkauthor.com. And I have a website. It's got information on my books. It's got articles that I've written and other information about business and working with private equity.
Fantastic. TedClarkAuthor.com. Very much appreciate you coming back on to share your expertise with our listeners. We love it, and we'll gladly have you back on anytime you are available. Ted, thanks again for joining us on Get Down to Business.
Great. Thank you, Shalom. Really great to be with you.
Absolutely. And I encourage all of our listeners to get in touch with our sponsors, Tom Mirabali, independent agent for all of your health insurance needs. You can visit his website, healthplanchicago.com, healthplanchicago.com, or give him a call, 630-863-3477, 630-863-3477. We've got to squeeze in a quick break here on Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship, but don't touch that dial because we will be right back.